Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another Exhibition World session. I'm joined by Paul Martin from EventsAIR. He is the Executive Director of Strategic Business. EventsAIR is an online event platform, which we'd like to hear a bit more about today. So, Paul, what can you tell us about how EventsAIR, your digital platform, has evolved during the pandemic? How has it changed in the final year, and what new products are you offering?
Right, yeah. Look, thanks very much for having me on, Stuart. And I think, the evolution of the platform has really just been, it's been a totally new world for us. We come from the real live face-to-face events world. That's the mainstay of our product. And for 30 years, that's what we've done. We've provided technology for live events, in-person events. And then, of course, with COVID, we then had to very rapidly decide to make that shift. So for us, it was very new territory. We weren't from the virtual event space. There were many providers that were out there pre-pandemic that were operating in that space. We weren't one of them. And so yeah, come sort of March last year, we then had to sit down and look at, well, what do we do for our customers? And of course, our customers, which were really feeling the pain. What can we do for them? And what does that look like? So we then set about building our product, which is called On Air, which sits on top of our EventsAIR platform. So not so much by design, I guess, from the outset, but it was inherited and it's worked out very well for us. We ended up with a virtualized platform, but also going forward, it's a hybrid platform because it's built on a live platform already. So yeah, we developed that and launched that in May, and it was sort of really adopted very rapidly by our customers. So it's been a new world for us. We've had to learn a lot.
And we've seen quite a lot of new platforms arising. I mean, like you said, you weren't specifically in the virtual event space before, but you've kind of extended your digital offerings before because your platform is a kind of all-in-one events management service. Can you maybe give a bit of background on how the sort of platform originally functions and how it's been added to, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you rightly say, the platform was very, very much designed, as I said earlier, really around that live, in-person, face-to-face world. So in the exhibition space, we were all about selling booths, managing exhibitors, managing all of the needs of exhibitors, providing online tools to be able to capture all of that information. And ultimately be able to then disseminate that down to all of the players on the ground, be it the hire companies or sometimes the organisers themselves, so as that they could actually go and build the exhibition stands, provide the electricity, know where certain things need to be laid out in the stands. So it was really about capturing all that information and then managing the logistics of all of that. And then the world changed and we went online. And in a digital exhibition space, we've now had to really move into this place where we're interacting or trying to interact with our buyers and exhibitors in the same way, where they've now got a digital space and they can then use webcams and their computer tools, microphones, and so on to be able to interact. We took the approach of actually allowing them to, or enabling them to be able to interact in that video and audio mode. So it was like they were having a conversation, but at the same time, also allow them then to exchange contact details, show slide decks, try and have as close to the real experience as they would have had at a live event. And then also build in all of the other things that we'd always provided, things like one-to-one meeting matching and those other tools that normal in-person exhibitions would have provided. So we've built all of that into a digital platform as well. So it's I think as near as the live experience as we can possibly get, and it's certainly been fantastic to see the way that people have adapted into that world.
And like you say, your experience is quite valuable in this kind of situation where everyone's scrambling to find new ways of doing business. Do you think that some of the new platforms that have come around, like Hopin, for example, that have been very initially successful and that we've seen quite a few news stories of acquisitions of companies that are sort of rolling in, do you think that those new platforms will be able to kind of sustain their success within the event sector specifically?
Right. Yeah. Look, I think you cite Hopin as an example. I think Hopin have done a fantastic job. They've really they've come out of nowhere, and they've gained a lot of notoriety. Certainly, it's a name that everybody knows. So I think they've done extremely well. I think it's more a case of looking at the volume of platforms that have popped up over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, I guess. And it was almost a case that everybody that had the ability to build a website in the event space started to then deliver something that was termed a virtual platform. Now, whether it was a platform or not, or whether it was a series of websites stitched together, they all got lumped into the same sort of barrow. So we end up with a pretty murky space right now, which is really difficult for exhibition and conference organizers to really delve through to find, what is a platform? What do all of them do? Some of them are full service. Some of them are simply just streaming content. What's out there. In terms of what their longevity looks like, I think if we think back to the early days of registration, online registration, and then, of course, the era we went through with attendee apps, we saw a flurry of new companies come to the market. And then we saw a lot of those companies amalgamate. We saw some of those companies get absorbed by some of the bigger companies, which essentially ended up in amalgamation. But we saw the market sort of settle itself down. And I think we're likely to see a similar sort of process occur as we go through the next sort of, I guess, 24 months in this space. But there's certainly going to be some new players that emerge and become mainstays, and there's going to be some that may have been mainstays that might fall away.
You've spoken a bit about how you've adapted from a kind of business point of view, but I'm curious to hear how you've adapted as a company on a bit more of a personal level. How have you adapted to home working? I mean, you're an international business, but based, I believe, in Australia. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Head office is in Australia, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. But you've got employees in many different countries. So how have you kind of adapted to, as a company with home working and everything else that's come in the last year?
Yeah, look, it was certainly interesting. As a digital company, I guess many people thought that we'd adapt to it very quickly, very easily, and we had to adapt to it because we all know when the shutdown occurred, we didn't really have any choice. So we were really forced into that adaptation, very quickly. How did we adapt to it in reality? I think we did okay. We certainly seemed to maintain momentum quite well. We kept the team together. We did what I think most companies did, where we moved from where it's a normal hi, how you going in the morning, into formal stand-ups where you actually have everybody on a call every morning to discuss what their day looks like and really try and bring the team together and just try and promote that little bit of camaraderie. Otherwise, it becomes very, very isolating. The other thing we've absolutely focused on is making sure that the team, whilst they are in their home isolation, for use of a better term, that they have the ability to reach out to everybody in the company, so as that if they're feeling like they're a little bit lost on that particular day, or that they've just got something that's getting them down, that they can reach out to somebody, because we've obviously all had that conversation with our companies about mental health and isolation, and we certainly don't want any of our team to suffer from any of those challenges. So we've found it difficult, but we've also been able to keep the company very active, which I think is really important for the team. The more active they are, the easier it's certainly been.
Absolutely. And just looking forward to the future as we come to a close, given that you operate across many different countries, where have you kind of started to see business returning first? Is Australia kind of a bit ahead of us in terms of, or here in the UK, I should say, where I'm based, but a bit ahead of us in terms of events beginning to return and business starting to flow back in?
Yeah. Look, I guess if you'd asked me that question a number of months ago, I would have said, Australia, and I'm not based in Australia anymore, I'm based in the UK also, but Australia was certainly very, very quick, or it seemed to be very, very quick to start to re-emerge. And then, of course, we had all of these secondary lockdowns around the world. So I think largely we're all pretty much back in the same boat. Everybody's largely back in lockdown. Australia has had a little bit of relaxation, but largely I think the world is pretty much the same all over. I was only speaking to my colleagues in North America yesterday, and exactly the same thing. You know, they're very much in home confinement and not sure when it's going to relax. But I think going forward into the future, irrespective of where we end up working from, I think the evolution in this digital industry as another element of events is certainly around to stay. We're about to extend our earlier versions of the platform. So we're about to launch the second generation of our technology, which will certainly put us out there in front of sort of the market. And we're going very, very much into a world of more visual orientated exhibitions and conferences. So I think as an accompaniment to an event, I think this will really be a big part of our future. But we all want to get back to live events. We all want to, get together and have a drink together again and enjoy, what we've done in the past. I think it'll just change the way that maybe we attend events in the future. We might just change our habits and potentially reduce the number of events we go to live, and then offset that by attending, digital events.
Fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time there, Paul.
Absolutely no problem at all. And look, I really wish everybody the best. We're hoping that we're all going to get out of this whole lockdown in the next few months and then get back to some sort of normality. But again, we're all going to have to see where our industry ends up at the end of that. But thank you very much for having me today.
No worries. Yeah, thank you too. And have a good afternoon.